All right, we are live once again. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my fellow comic book collaborators. My name is Chris. This is my channel. We love comics, and I have another live unboxing I'd like to do for you, even though technically it is not a box. I got one of my key books that I ordered. Took about a week and a half to get here, but as they say, better late than never. Person was just really bad at communicating, made two promises that the book would be mailed out on a specific day, and the day went and passed. And you'd think a person would at least let you know, but, you know, that's some eBay sellers. And this person had 100% rating with tons of positive reviews, so I guess I was the lucky one that got him on a bad week or something. And I asked the person specifically, could they please mail it in a box, gave the explanation why. They said no problem, and they went ahead and mailed it in a bubble mailer with what looks to be no protection at all. So even if you try and tell or suggest or ask or kindly mention what you'd like done as far as shipping, it doesn't always guarantee that the people are going to listen or even care. So I did have to reflect it on this person's rating. Unfortunately, especially if the comic gets damaged, there are some bends in the actual envelope, but who knows if it hits the comic or not. The point is, you know, nothing wrong with delays, but let people know. It took 2 or 3 emails each time for them to finally respond. And each time they said, all right, we promise we'll mail it on a certain date, and that day would come and go. They didn't send any message saying, you know, I apologize that we were going to mail it on this day. We just can't do it because blah, blah, blah. Again, I would have to message the person 2 or 3 times before they'd finally respond. And we're going to see if the comic gets damaged or is damaged or not. Good thing about eBay protection is if it ends up being damaged, that is negligence on the seller's behalf. So they will be responsible for it, but hopefully it's not. But we're going to find out live. So we got a couple of people in here already. We have 4 viewers and 4 people that commented, so that's a good sign. We got SP Comics, first person in the live chat. We got Michael P. Bin Issue Bin says, hope all is well. Things are always going well, thank you. I hope they are with you and everybody else as well. And we have, last but not least, Brian Norman with the cool sunglasses emojis. Before I show the unboxing, if anybody wants to if they want to rate the AI art, I mean, it's a more basic one this time, but I wanted to try and do something different. I like to throw in some comedy sometimes. You're more than welcome to leave a comment. If you see the comic scrolling by, like All-Star Comics 8, and you'll see others when it starts looping, you can contact me at peacefulfeelings.com. I'm trying to acquire one of those books via trade. As of now, I do not have the cash to be able to buy any of those books straight out, and I also want to try and avoid the massive amount of taxes it would involve in getting one of those big boy books, because, you know, if a $600-700 book is about $50, $60 in taxes, just imagine what a $10,000 to $15,000 book would end up costing in taxes. So I'm trying to do it via trade, so it'll help each person. If you have any of those books or know anybody, if you would be so kind to direct them my way, it would be greatly appreciated, because I want to show my viewers and hopefully inspire and motivate them to see that it's not always how much cash you have in your pocket to get the things that you want in your life. It's using your mind to do and think of other alternative ways to get the things you want outside of the criminal element. You know, don't be somebody that does things the wrong way to acquire fame, fortune, power, and money. It's not a good way to live life, in my opinion. So if you know anybody, please have them contact me at peacefulfeelings@yahoo.com. Let's put on the video camera. Hello, everybody. We got rotine cheese. That's what it actually pronounces as, but I'm sure you probably meant it to say rotten cheese. But it's actually pronounced rotine cheese. But always good to see you. Here is the wonderful manila envelope. I mean, they could type in "do not bend" and "fragile" all they want, but, you know, postal workers, they're not going to take much care. Just wanted to let people know the auction, the comics are no longer for sale. I did have 2 people inquire about 2 books. One of them, I'll just say their first name, Daniel, asked about Amazing Spider-Man 15 and X-Men 12. I gave them the chance to say no before I agreed to anyone else. He said he could not do it, which I totally respect. So somebody else came along that's ordered for me in the past, so I had no problem with dealing with them. And ironically, they wanted Amazing Spider-Man 15 and X-Men number 12, and those are taken. So even though the auction didn't go as originally was what I hoped for, as usual, I made 2 sales before the auction and 2 more sales, actually 3 sales after the auction. So, you know, to me, it shouldn't really matter if people go to the auction to bid or not, because I'll always make sales. So, in the grand scheme of things, what most people would have seen as a failure, I actually did quite well. So, I pretty much now have the ability to get the breaks done. I'm probably about 100 or 2 short, but I have money coming in from previous auctions soon. So, you know, the good thing about being at home all the time is I don't have to worry about using my car very often. So if it sits there, you know, an extra week, I'm fine with that. So let's see what happens. We're going to open this live. Make sure, if you ever have a manila envelope or a padded envelope, make sure you check the top first, because you want to make sure the comic isn't all the way on the top, so when you cut it open, you don't cause the damage, because then at that point it doesn't matter what happened. So they have a padded envelope, no cardboard, and they added more bubble wrap, which, you know, bubble wrap is famous for being unbendable. So this person at least put it in a top loader, so there's that. So overall, this person is not somebody I'd probably deal with again. But again, I always recommend to people, message sellers and ask them if they can mail it a certain way. 9 out of 10 times it is going to work, but this time it didn't. It looks like there's a little curvature to the comic, but a pressing will fix that. So luckily, you know, you can kind of see, I don't know if you can, but there's kind of a little bit of a curve going in that direction, but that could be pressed out. So considering what could have happened, didn't, but still, the bend actually will lower the grade if you don't get a pressing. Not by much. And there could be a micro color break on the edge because of it. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it could have been worse. So let's go over this. And as usual, I'll tell you the significance of the book. As you guys know me, I exclusively buy only key issues, or at least potential key issues. This is a Copper Age book. Definitely, in my opinion, as far as Copper Age books are concerned, this first appearance is of a well-known character and is by far one of the more underrated, undervalued comics as far as Copper Age books are concerned for first appearances of key characters that are well-known. So let's show the book. And by the way, if anybody wants to hit the like button, please do. I always appreciate those who show support and love. So thank you to anybody who does it. I can't see who does it anymore, unfortunately. But if you did, thank you so much. And here's the book. So we've got X-Men number 221. This is the first appearance of Mr. Sinister. Now, he's been in the X-Men cartoons. He's a well-known character. The X-Men are coming back to the MCU. If they were supposedly continuing off with the cartoon from where it started out to where it is now, they're saying it's like a continuation. Chances are this character is going to end up in the show at some point. But he could end up being a villain eventually in the MCU. Especially when, I wouldn't say he's a street level villain, obviously, but they could actually, I don't think he'd ever be a main villain in a movie, but he could definitely be one of a few in there. I just think, in my opinion, this is an undervalued book. So, first we see it is a newsstand variant. Now, let's see how many of you watch my channel, especially recently. What do you think is going to be next for me to unveil? And this looks pretty good. There is a little bit of a stain on the back. Is that a stain? I think it's a stain. But it's hard to see. Like right, if you could see along the edge there. Like in here. But we always got to make sure we double check. And ladies and gentlemen, another Mark Jewelers variant. So I would say, if that is indeed a stain, it doesn't look like any wrinkles or something. It just looks like a little line. I don't know if that's... It's hard to see what it is. Because whatever it is does not bleed through. So let's assume that's a stain. Everything else looks good. The pages are white. And in case you've never opened the book, there's the first appearance of Mr. Sinister right there in your face. So for me, I don't see any color breaking creases. There's a nice gloss to it. There might be one or two non-color breaking creases, but especially along the spine. I think with that little stain, because it's not major, I think it would be between a 7.5 and maybe an 8.5. Which I'll take. Because this was an auction. It might even go higher because everything else looks pretty darn good. And like I said, even though that little bit of a curve, that could be pressed out easily. Let me ask you guys, and again, be honest, because I'm sure everybody'd want to pay $50 for this. But the reality is, for a Mark Jewelers variant, especially when it comes to a key comic, a first key appearance, you're not spending $50 on this. I mean, hey, if you can get it, get it. But if you had the ability to bid on this, because this wasn't a buy it now, this was an auction. So this was one of the, again, like every now and then I'll check and see what's about to end. And as usual, this was about a minute left when I first saw it. I placed the bid because I know how people will bid. I ended up winning. And I would love to know if you want to put even in the live chat if you're live, or if you're watching this later, pause the video and just post. What would be the maximum you would spend on this? Like I said, it's probably, I would say, 7.5 minimum, but probably could go to a 8.0 to a 9.0 in that range. Because the stain is not that bad. It literally looks just like a little line that does not bleed through. So that will prevent it from getting a 9.8 or a 9.6 or in the upper 9s. But it could get to that because everything else looks great. I mean, if you look at the spine, there is not one spine tick. The corners and edges are sharp. The top one has a tiny, tiny bit, like the tip of it bent. So again, keep in mind that this book with a Mark Jewelers variant is only 2% of the complete run of this comic and every comic. So Donatano says $25. All I'm going to say to that answer is you will never find a Mark Jewelers variant for a first appearance of a known character for $25. If you could find that, then you bought it from somebody who doesn't know what's going on. I mean, we have to keep it real, Donato. If this was a live auction, you're telling me that this is not going to go over $25? I mean, obviously that's not the case because I won it. All right, so let's just go over it. With shipping and handling, I paid a total of $118.88 for this book. So let me break it down. Give me a second. Because, of course, anytime I switch screens, the computer will slow down on me. So $118.88, that's after shipping and after taxes. So let me scroll down really quick. And of course, it didn't go to where I want it to go. Price you pay for having an older laptop. All right, so it's not going to let me do it. It's going to keep doing the same thing. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to break it down. But I believe I won it for roughly around 90 to 92. And with the taxes and everything, it came out to 118.88. So to me, especially a book that has chances of having a character that could end up being eventually in a movie, and I do believe you'll probably see him in the X-Men cartoon. Even without that, it's a known character, and I am actually shocked at the prices that even the regular version of this character goes for. But I think eventually people will see the potential. I mean, you want to talk about speculating for a book. You know, Mr. Sinister is not a C or D level character. He is a pretty well-known character. Okay, so yes, okay. So I finally got it to work. So I won it at $102.50. So with taxes and shipping, it came out to $118.88. So this is, I'll reveal my secrets. Like I say all the time, I don't make people join my Patreon to disclose information. I like to give it away freely. Now, if you ever want to join my Patreon and be one of the 1 or 2 people, I think total, that are on it, it helps to support my channel. But because I know how people think, I don't remember what the bid was at the time I placed my bid. Let's just assume it was probably between $65 and $75 with about 2 minutes left to go. I know that the average person thinks in specific numbers, like 50, 75, 100, etc. So, knowing the bid was roughly between $65 and $75 when I was about to place my bid, I draw in my mind a certain price that I'm willing to pay and then go over it just a slight bit so I can outwit people who can only think in a certain level. So I knew that if it was going to go over what I was going to bid, I don't care if I lose. But if it doesn't, I know that it's because the bidder that made the highest bid before I bid was only going to go to a certain level. So I knew, because of the way people think, and that's why you'll see gas at $3.99 and not $4. Because even though it's a penny, and actually even though it's 1/10 of a penny, people see the number 3 instead of the number 4 as a big discount. And that's why you'll see, instead of a smart seller, and I see it all the time on auctions that people don't do this, a regular seller will sell, like, for example, they'll sell a comic for $100. A smart seller will sell it for $99, because 100 puts you in another bracket. 99 makes it seem like a lower bracket, even though there's only a $1 difference. So I knew that if I was not going to be outbid, I knew the person that would have stopped at their highest amount would be $100. So what did I do? I did $102.99. And what did I win by? $102.50. Because the increases go by $2 or $2.50. So I always go by, this is what I believe the average person is going to bid, because they're going to go in specific numbers. They're going to go with even numbers. For whatever reason, they think very linear. I think, like I say, you want to know how a criminal works? Think like a criminal. Now, I'm not saying they're a criminal or anything, but what I'm saying is, if I want to be able to outbid somebody that's bidding on something, I have to understand how they, on average, tend to bid. And regardless of what the bid was at the time, I knew if I bid 100, I was going to lose. So I bid $102.99, because if the person did in fact end their highest bid at $100, I'd end up beating it by the amount that would allow me to win. So I try and teach people, the very few people that will listen to my channel and listen to my advice. Many people over the years who have actually taken out whatever biases they might have or opinions about me or whatever, and actually listened to my advice, have told me over the years I've helped them make tons of money. I give out the information freely because I feel that's the right thing to do. I could easily say, if you want to learn my secrets, join my Patreon or become a member and spend such and such amount to do it. I could easily do that, and I'd probably have more people than the 1 or 2 Patreon members I have. But I want to help people, and the best way to help people is the people that really need it. I always hate when some company, some big company that has millions and maybe billions of dollars wants to give out information, but is going to charge tens of thousands of dollars to get that information. So who does that help? People with a lot of money. Who does it not help? People with no money who would need that advice and that help probably more than anybody else. So it's always the people that have the least amount of money that always get put out of things. And I'll give you another example of a video I just watched today. Now, if you know who PBD is, I'm a big fan of his channel. Love his work. If you don't know who PBD is, I highly recommend looking into it. If you know who PBD is, that's I'm not gonna say his name, but I'm just gonna put P as in Peter, B as in boy, D as in David. So PBD. Okay. I agree with 99% of his stuff. No one ever agrees in everything. He makes things very logical, very straightforward. He's a very positive person. But there was something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And it's a minor thing. But it goes to my point. He was talking about going to the UFC recently, where he saw Donald Trump, shook his hand. I'm not talking about Trump or anything, so this isn't political. But he was saying on his podcast this morning, people should go to the UFC. And then he did a poll of how many people have actually been to the UFC. And the poll ended up like 95% of the people that participated in it said they've never been to a UFC. And the people in the panel who are financially well off were all shocked by this. And I'm thinking to myself, well, do you know why the average person doesn't go to the UFC? They probably can't afford it. Especially front row seats. So even though he's in touch with a lot of people, makes a lot of sense, sometimes people with higher amounts of money, they lose the grip of reality, what it's like. I must have been saying something that the YouTube gods didn't like. But it kind of blew my mind how out of touch he was there. Especially since he said that he grew up with nothing and built his life. And again, I agree with like 95% of the things he says. I watch him, I'm subscribed to him all the time. So it's not about that. But like I say, even people I like, if they say something I don't agree with, I'm not going to be a yes man and say, I agree with everything because I like you or agree with you. That means you could never do wrong and you'll always do right. No, I'm one of those people. I am an independent. I'm not a leftist. I'm not a rightist. I'm in between, but I'm willing to listen to rationality. And that's why I tend to lean further right than I would ever left. Because at one point I was a Democrat. But no way. They're too insane at this point on the extreme. And I'm sure what would have been a liberal Democrat 20 years ago is now considered a right-wing conspiracy theorist nut job. I mean, it's ridiculous how far things have gone. But here was my point with the whole the PBD. He was going to do a giveaway. And this is why it's relevant to what I was saying about, why I give my information for free. So he was blown away by how many people have never gone to to a UFC fight. Didn't put together that it's probably because people don't have the money you have to afford to do stuff like that. And he says, you know what, I'm going to give away some tickets. And I thought, all right, that's really nice of you. You're going to give away some tickets to the UFC. Now he said the next UFC event, which what they said was in Las Vegas. So he only said free tickets. He didn't say transportation. So a person would now have to, if they won the 4 tickets, would have to spend whatever amount for hotel and flight reservations, things like that. But he says, he doesn't just say, you know what, the 5th person that comments will get the 4 tickets. What he said was, if you go on my website and buy my merchandise and spend a minimum of $50, you will be entered in the raffle. So, as usual, the only people that will be able to benefit from that will be people either that live in Las Vegas so they don't have to worry about airfare and hotel and can afford to spend $50 or more on merchandise. But it'll be the average person that has an extra amount of money. Somebody who is barely able to pay their rent and has enough money left over each month to decide what level of quality food they can afford is not going to be able to say, all right, I can now take, instead of buying, vegetables for my children, I'll buy them a box of cereal and take that extra money I would have put on nutritious food for them and healthy food for them. I'm going to now buy some merchandise in hopes that I win a contest that I'll only win free tickets for, but I will not probably be able to afford taking time off from work, paying for babysitters if you have children, paying for the flight reservation, car rentals, hotels. So what I'm saying is, in a long, drawn-out version, is that if you're going to be kind and generous, which giving away tickets is being kind and being generous, go the whole way. I mean, just imagine if you saw a homeless person on the street and said, you know what, I want to give that person some food. And you say, well, this food that I'm about to give him cost me $50, but I'm only going to charge him $5. If that person doesn't even have the $5, you might as well charge him $1 million. So it won't be able to benefit that person. Is the person still doing technically a good thing? Yes. But if you're going to go the route of the righteous, go all the way. And that is why I tell people, and probably why only 1 or 2 people have my Patreon account, is because I don't offer anything there extra. My Patreon account is, somebody says, you know what, I like what Chris does. I like his information. The Patreon is there to help support his channel so he can continue to buy comics that I love to watch and learn information in the process. I would like to give such and such to help. It's not, well, the only way I can get information from Chris is if I pay for something and then I'll get something. And that's why most people will buy books and buy these seminars and not listen to the people that actually are out there willing to give stuff out for free. I don't ever ask for anything. I am appreciative of everything. So I could easily have my eBay tips on my Patreon only for people who pay money. I won't do it. I give the secrets out all the time, and I just gave another secret out today in this very video. So if you're just tuning in, you may have missed it. Because I know how the average person thinks, and I can easily I'm not going to say outsmart, but I will just anticipate a move. It's like playing chess. Well, let's use pool as an example, because I'm sure more people play pool or have played pool than they have chess. An okay pool player just makes their shots. A good player makes their shots with the anticipation of setting up the next shot. A professional pool player has the next 5 or 6 moves already in their head before they make that initial shot. So in other words, they plan ahead and strategize and set everything up accordingly, instead of just focusing on that one particular shot and that's it. Now, obviously, if you don't make the first shot, you can't do the other 4 or 5. So you do have to concentrate on the initial shot, of course. But that's where most people stop. They just focus on the one shot, and then wherever the ball goes, they just go from there. Anybody can bid on an auction. But how many of you out there will strategize and set parameters and think about how the average person thinks and moves their chess piece or shoots their pool shot to line up the next shot? In other words, you're anticipating what's going to happen. I know that information. I tend to win most of the time, and I will win regardless, because if I lose, I put a specific amount that I'm willing to buy the comic for. If it goes over that, I'll pass up on it. Even if it was an Amazing Fantasy 15. which you guys know, and I'll put on the AI art if you want to see it at this point, because I'm sure you're tired of looking at my mug. You'll see a bunch of comics going by that I'm looking for via trade. One of them is an Amazing Fantasy 15. Let's just say I happen to have $12,000 for somehow. Some family member decided, you know what, I won the lottery, Chris, I want to give you $12,000. And I see a coverless, well, let's just say it's a 1.0 restored book that's worth, let's say it's worth about $8,000 for an Amazing Fantasy 15. You guys know I would love to get an Amazing Fantasy 15. Never had one. It's one of my holy personal grails. And let's say that Amazing Fantasy 15 comes up, and with shipping and handling, it would exactly total $12,000 that somebody's selling it for. Knowing that it's only worth $8,000, and as much as I would love to buy that book, I would pass up on it. Because I am not going to allow my emotion to make me overspend on something just because I would like to own it. Because I look at these things as potential investments. And yes, maybe in 15 years that book would get past $12,000, assuming that it was only worth about $8,000. But when you're 53, you don't plan 20 years ahead, 15 years ahead. Unless it's for somebody else, like your wife, your spouse, or your family, your children. So I have to think in the moment. So if you appreciate the fact that I am willing to give out information, even to people watching this that hate me, that can't stand me, and just come here to thumb down videos, if I help them, then you know what? Somebody that sends hate my way, I sent helpfulness and kindness their way. I think more people in life should do that. Send kindness and helpfulness instead of always being greedy. Because, as you can see, from a person that's been quote-unquote unemployed, because I do not have a job anymore since October of last year. I don't have a trust fund. I did some smart investments with bitcoins and stocks and things like that, and I did have to sell a bunch of it. But with my auctions, I've been able to not only stay afloat, but get all my bills paid. And even though the last auction may have seemed to be a failure, because no one bid, and there were people that were, the reason I got a little upset at the end, not because no one was bidding, but because of some of the comments that seemed borderline cruel, having fun with the fact that I wasn't making any money in my auctions and no one was bidding. They were having a fun time, like getting out the popcorn and sit back and watch the train wreck. But in the end, I sold about $1,100 worth beforehand, and I sold about another $1,000 worth after. So my failure still brought me about $2,100. That's a good failure. Because my successes in my auctions have brought me between $3,000 and $6,000. So on my bad, worst auction, I made over $2,000. My break bills are going to cost about $1,000. My PayPal, which is at its limit, because that's one of the reasons also how I'm able to get a lot of these books is I've used my PayPal credit. And not once, I've used PayPal credit religiously for the past 8 or 9 years, and never once have I paid a dime in interest. Because I make sure that I make the monthly payments to the point where, because I only buy it if I can do the 6-month no interest payment plan. So I'm able to afford things that I can turn around and sell in 3 months or 4 months, make a profit on, and pay it off before there's any interest ever accumulated. I have never used my credit card to buy one comic in the last decade that I can remember. There might have been one, if I think really hard, but I cannot recall a time. And if it was my credit card, it was because I was using my bank card, not the actual credit. My point is, I try and help people. Don't ask for anything in return. I mean, if you want to hit the like button, that's great. You don't have to join my Patreon because, like I said, I have, at least on a regular basis, I have about 300 viewers on my channel watching, even though I have supposedly over 10,000 subscribers. YouTube's unsubscribes people all the time. There are people, because I do live shows all the time, when people go to my videos, they click the video section and they'll see I haven't made video in like years, so they think I don't make videos anymore. So YouTube is not very helpful with helping me. So that's why I need the very few of you, the one or two, that care enough to help share my channel, to help maybe direct somebody to one of my auctions, or maybe if you've ever seen somebody post on Instagram, they have an AF-15 for sale, to have them be contacted about me or known about me, and maybe they'll do a trade. Because I want to show people there are alternative ways if you don't give up. If you watch the auction I did the other day, you could see towards the end I was getting upset to the point where I just shut it off. And it was because of the comments that people were leaving, because they were having fun with the fact I wasn't making any sales. But I ended up being the one who had the last laugh, because my failure still brought me over $2,000. I'll take that failure any day. I bet you would too, if you failed and you made over $2,000. Just like I said, I've told you some of the amounts I've made with my successes. And as usual, this time it was a little different. 100% of my auction sales happened before and after. So the ones that were glorifying the fact of what they seemed to be a colossal failure in my auction, at that moment that gave them pleasure, ended up not holding true in the end. So as they say, he who laughs last laughs best. Difference is, I'm not going to laugh at them, because I could care less, and I hope they find a better way. And that's why I want people, give information out for freely. Help a person without asking for a handout. Like I say, I do twice a day, every single day, rain or shine, whether I'm sick. I've had walking pneumonia, and I went out and fed the 20 to 22 to 25 stray cats, which, by the way, 98% of them I got fixed myself. Some other people got some of the others, and there's one or two or more I still have to catch. But I've actually stopped the problem by getting them fixed. I don't ask for handouts. I could, you know how easily it could be for me, especially on YouTube, to make a YouTube channel showing how quote-unquote kind I am by making videos every day showing me feeding these cats and how adorable they are and how many people would send in money and things. But I don't want to do that. It doesn't make it wrong, and I'm not discouraging or saying anybody that does it is bad. It's just not for me. I do it because it's right. I don't expect these cats to give me anything. I don't expect the world to give me anything. Sometimes we have to do things just because it's nice. So as usual, I will go on my hour rant, which I know 99% of my viewers probably can't stand, and probably why out of over 10,000 viewers I get 300 views. But I'm not here for the ones that don't care. I'm not here for the ones that don't watch. I'm not here for the ones that cannot be decent and be friendly and kind. I'm here for the very few who appreciate my train of thought, my ability to speak to you as a human being, maybe my different outlook on life. Those are the people I care about. So if you're one of those few, thank you for being here. If you're somebody that maybe didn't like me at one point and finally decided to just start listening and maybe change their view, that's awesome. Say something in the comments section. Because like I say, you know, me being home a lot, one of the things I look forward to is the comments that you all leave. I get about 2 to 3 comments on every video. So it doesn't leave me much time to spend enjoying reading people's comments to me. And I respond to every single one of them. Now, at one point on my original channel, when I was so busy, I literally would have hundreds of comments a day. It got to the point where it was impossible to respond to everybody, because otherwise I'd be spending all day, every day, non-stop. But as of now, being an insignificant channel, I can respond to everybody's comments. So if this video uploads and you'd like to take the time to say hello or make a statement, even if you think I just talk way too long, As long as you're respectful, I don't need you to agree with everything I say and do. I don't mind you having a different point of view, or even saying you don't like something I do. As they say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And if we can all start learning to do things in a better way, you know, maybe things in the world would end up being not as crazy as they are. So, thank you very much for listening. If you want to check out other videos, do. If you want to hit subscribe, awesome. If you want to rate or talk about my AI art, by all means, please do. If you have or know somebody that has one of those comics scrolling on the bottom of the screen, please have them contact me, peacefulfeelings@yahoo.com. I want to get a trade done. I want to show people that if you don't give up, it's not a matter of when. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I'd love to have it before the end of this year, at least one of those comics on that list. Whether it happens or not, we'll find out, but I look forward to the future instead of being afraid of it. Thanks for listening. Let's do today's surprise subscriber shoutouts. We're going to go with... We have to go with the rotten cheese, number one, a routine cheese, as number one. And we're going to go with Huntin' Comics. You guys are both, or girls, I don't want to assume, both of you are today's surprise subscriber shoutouts, which means if you want to be one of the very few people that it's picked and you want to post a link to your YouTube channel or a specific YouTube video, you could post the link in the comment section once the video uploads. Keep in mind, I will not promote like a prank channel or anything with adult content. That's not what I want to promote here. It does not have to be a comic book channel, but that will probably get the most viewers to check you out. If you don't have a YouTube channel or you'd prefer to post a link to your social network, any one of them you want to choose, by all means, you could do that instead. Same situation applies. And if you don't have a social network or not anything worth having people go to, and you'd rather post a link to something you sell on eBay, Etsy, Amazon, any of those places, again, as long as it's content for all ages, I have no problem sharing it, even if it's not comic book related. You could talk about shoes, you could talk about records, you could talk about life in general, you could talk about meditation. But again, comic book videos are probably going to be, or something you sell like comic books, it's probably going to do best here because it's a comic book channel. Although you probably never know it 90% of my conversations. So keep in mind, if you post a link, it will go directly into spam, so you will not see it right away. This prohibits any bots or trolls from trying to just come here who don't care anything about the videos and trying to put links to porn sites or some kind of spam scam. They'll never see the light of day. So if you see a link in the comment section, it means I did verify it, I did check it, I did approve it. So go support our community and let's keep that kind of spreaded. So if you like this stuff, hit the thumbs up. If not, that's okay. You can hit the thumbs down if you want to. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And I'll do another auction soon, probably in another month or two. And it'll probably go as usual. It'll probably be 1 or 2 sales beforehand. There'll probably be 1 to 0 during the live auction. And then there'll be another 2 or 3 afterwards. And as long as I can make a little bit of profit to be able to get some bills paid, I am a success, and that's why I will not give up, and neither should you, doing the things that you love, because every now and then somebody does something that'll hurt your feelings. Because, yeah, they hurt my feelings a little bit. It affected me a little bit, but that's all it was, a little bit. View people like that like a mosquito. They'll sting you for a second until you swat them away, and then they are no longer affecting your life. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and don't forget, it is not you, it is not I, it's We Love Comics. And please, don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered. Have an awesome day, everybody. I'll see you next video, and I look forward to the very few who will take the